Welcome back to Physician Non-Clinical Careers with John Jerica, episode number 273, How the Medical Matchmaker Provides a Solution to Burnout. Welcome back to this week's show. This week I have a very interesting guest who has committed her to solving two problems: prevention of physician burnout and fighting the rising tide of corporate employment of physicians. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the University of Tennessee. This program offers the longest running and most highly respected physician-only executive MBA in the country, and it's produced more than 700 graduates. The Haslam College of Business at the UT was recently ranked number 1 in the world by Economist magazine as the most relevant executive MBA program. And it's efficient. Don't get me wrong, it's hard work, but unlike most other programs, it only takes 1 year to complete. And since you'll complete a company project while working on your MBA, you'll quickly demonstrate the value of the degree while in the program. Graduates have taken leadership positions at major healthcare organizations and have become entrepreneurs and business owners. If you want to acquire new business and management skills and advance your non-clinical career, contact Dr. Kate Ashley's office by calling 865-974-6526 or use our handy link at nonclinicalphysicians.com/physician MBA. Now let's get to today's interview. My guest, Dr. Lara Hochman, is a family physician. She received her medical degree from the University of Texas and then completed her family medicine residency at the St. Anthony North Hospital program in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Lara is also known as the medical matchmaker. She's an advocate for fellow physicians' well-being in the face of rising burnout and dissatisfaction. Her own experience has led her to discover the ways physicians lose autonomy and how they can reclaim their focus on helping patients. She founded Happy Day Health, a boutique physician matchmaking agency to match doctors with well-run, physician-owned private practices where they can avoid burnout and enjoy practicing medicine again. You can find that at happydayhealth.co. Well, with that, let's get to today's interview. In the town that I work in, well, I still work here, but when I used to practice here in both hospitals, small town outside of Chicago, I would see these groups come and go where a physician would hire a partner and then they leave after 2 or 3 years. And it's really uncommon to find a really well-run practice. But I have a friend who's a gastroenterologist. He's got 8 partners. They've had a practice that's going for over 30 years, and it just runs so well. And they have no trouble recruiting. And they're all happy. They like what they're doing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, we normally talk about non-clinical jobs or careers, but, one of the principles I go by is that I think physicians should be happy. And I believe in physicians working for other physicians as opposed to working for corporations. So with that, I want to welcome today's guest. Hello, Dr. Lara Hochman.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
You're welcome. So, this is not going to be about a non-clinical job. This is how to find a clinical job where you can be happy and fulfilled and wake up in the morning and possibly actually look forward to going to work. So tell me and our listeners here, who you are, what you do, and maybe a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I'm the medical matchmaker. So I help physicians find practices that will really closely align with their value systems. And on the flip side, I also help practices find physicians. And then throughout that process, I really help out with a lot of kind of coaching through what to talk about in an interview, all of those things, negotiation, all that stuff. So I'm a family medicine physician. I still practice. I do locum tenens here where I work, where I live locally. And that's because I actually still love medicine. So I do this in large part because I personally have been burned out and thought I hated clinical medicine and left medicine entirely thinking I was going to figure out what else to do. And then just this seemingly perfect job fell in my lap. It was terrifying because I was like, but I don't like medicine anymore. And I decided to just take a risk and do it and figured out that I loved medicine. It was just the system I hated. So, I see that over and over again in so many people, and I would like to be a part of the solution I think once you're past the point of no return, then of course, clinical medicine may not be for you anymore. But there's so many of us that love clinical medicine and love everything. We just don't like the system. So I'm out there to try to change it.
That's fantastic. Now, when I think of like clinical situations that physicians might enjoy, I do think about locums because although it's hard to necessarily set it up initially, it's actually provides a lot of options and flexibility and so forth. I think of DPC and concierge care, but obviously I also know of people, as I mentioned in the opening, that are working in jobs that they like because they have partners that they like. They have a practice that works well. The patients like them, and they're actually kind of practicing traditional medicine, even though we're in a system that tends to not favor that. So I definitely like to hear stories like this about someone who's doing the matchmaking. So let's see. So how did you make that transition? I mean, it is difficult to basically starting a new career and starting a new business is very challenging. So just a little bit about how you overcame sort of just some of the mindset issues, and did you have to deal with family and say, here's what I'm going to do? I mean, how did that come about?
Oh my goodness, that is that is such a big question. Um, Yeah, it was very interesting. There were parts of my family that I thought would be supportive that weren't, and there were parts that I thought would not be supportive and were. So it's interesting. I think overall they accept and support me in what I'm doing. Um, they're there to cheer me on and to pat my back when I'm feeling down. But it really was a challenge. I mean, I, there are no words for how difficult it was. It puts medical school to shame.
Oh,
And
really? Okay.
it's a different type of difficult. Medical school is like this fire hose of information. This was more, I taught myself how to do what I'm doing. I had no training in business, no training in, um, you know, I would say traditional recruiting. I don't consider myself a recruiter, but I didn't know how to find people. I didn't know how to, I'm not a salesperson, all those things that I have no idea. So I was teaching myself how to do something very difficult. I don't often feel comfortable talking to new people, and so here I am calling complete strangers and getting, I've learned a lot of what to do and what not to do and what I can deal with. But talking to strangers is tough, and that's a huge part of what I do. Um, so there were so many challenges, and the financial part of starting a business, there's a lot. So the first thing that I did was even just deciding to start the company, there was a lot of mind drama that I was having about it. I never wanted to be a business person. I never wanted to start a business. I'm a physician at heart. That's what I love. I never saw myself doing this. Like, I actively did not want to do it. Um, but I just felt there was so much that needed to be done for physicians. And so that kind of mission of trying to be a part of the solution really just overtook that. And it turns out I actually love it. This was such a nice surprise. Um, so, I would say the first step, even before I started to start a business, was I've been working on facing my fears for years,
Hmm.
in other ways. And so that probably helped as a precursor. In medicine, we're trained to do what we're told, we're trained to follow the steps and study what we need to study. And so that was a big shift in I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and there's no blueprint for it. So that was really interesting. I'm like most people that probably are listening right now. I'm a total perfectionist. I don't like to do something unless I already know how to do it, which, you can't do that in entrepreneurship. Um, so a lot of it was someone once said, not even to me, it was in a conference. They said, start before you're ready. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm not ready. I'm starting. And I started that day. Um, so
Nice.
so that was huge, and realizing that I'm going to do it imperfectly, and that's okay, and I have to make mistakes in order to be better. um, that was okay too, and all of the mistakes, I've learned from. And there was a period of time near the beginning where I would sit down every morning, have a big old cry. I mean, it was so hard. And then I was like, okay, what's bothering me? And then, I'd kind of think through, I don't know how to do this, or I'm having a challenge with that. So I would actually take that, like, I mean, I was so drained and emotionally sad. And I would just take that and turn it into like, okay, well, obviously something's not working. Let me see what I can fix. And, it was lots of little changes over time that I had to figure out what to do. And I think I will be figuring it out till the day I die. But it's gotten to the point now that I'm so much more comfortable with what I'm doing. I've figured out so many things, and it's satisfying. I'm so satisfied with being able to create real change and affect lives and have an impact far greater than I could if I were still just seeing patients myself, which I still love doing.
Nice. Well, let's see, a couple of observations. So, when you have such a principle or a passion, whatever you want to call it, something you're committed to, that can push you through to the end a lot of times. So that's awesome. And you said you were teaching yourself. Well, you had a great student because you're a physician. So you've already demonstrated your ability to solve problems and research things and read and learn, and so that's one thing we forget, that yeah, if we go through med school and residency, we can certainly learn how to start a business if that's our desire. And I do think it's definitely needed. Now, I have interviewed several people that had startups of various sorts. Some were selling products, but typically the ones that are doing more of a service are usually connecting one person to another. They tried to start a locums company, recruiting company, or some other type of, and it's always a chicken and egg because you're doing the recruiting on both ends at the same time. You need physicians who are looking for a job, and then you need the companies that are looking for physicians. So was that a challenge for you, or did you find a simple solution to solving that problem? How did that come about? Where did you start on that part of it?
Yes, that will probably be my biggest challenge always.
Yeah.
Because, my whole business is predicated on finding people and speaking to people. Um, it came from putting myself out there, just saying, hey, this is what I do. And, I was one of those people who wasn't on social media. I don't like my face in public. I'm very, very private person. Um, Sort of. I mean, I'm an open book. You can ask me anything, but at the same time, like, I was never that person. So that, just putting myself out there and letting people know what I do was big. Something that I'm still learning to do is tell people, hey, tell other people about me. Do you have friends? Like, I can help you, I can help your friends. So that was really important, and still is. And going out and meeting as many people as possible is part of my job. And I actually love that. I may be shy on the inside, but I'm actually an extrovert. I love being around people.
Mm. Okay, nice. So now, what kind of things do you look for in a practice, or do you have some way of knowing that, okay, since I'm promoting that I'm going to match somebody with a practice where they're going to be very happy? Are there certain characteristics of those practices that hopefully will at least try to ensure that there's going to be a good fit? I mean, there's always the personalities and so forth, but just give us your take on that.
Yeah, the first thing that I look for in a practice, even deciding if we're going to work together or not, is how I feel that they would treat their physician. So a part of it is, are they financially stable? Does it
Mm.
make sense financially for them to hire someone? Because if they can't, then you have a physician who maybe even moves cross country to work there, and then they close their practice, or they get there and they're
Right.
not happy or not able to be paid. I mean, that's scary. So making sure that they're financially stable is super important. Um, and then, of course, just as important to that is um, the feeling that I get on how they will treat their doctors. So a lot of it is what they say and what they're looking for. And a part of it is, when they talk about, I want someone to be happy here, the kind of person that would really fit well is someone who is comfortable, whatever it is. Like, I want to hear from them why it's good working for them. And I hear such great things.
Mm.
Um, and of course, not everyone's going to be happy in the same in every other environment. So what is perfect for you would be different to what's perfect for me is different for what's perfect to the people listening. Um, so it's not necessarily that I'm looking for a specific thing other than I feel like they are going to be valued and have a voice and, really cared for in a way and respected. So those are the main things I look for.
Are you able to find out like what kind of turnover there has been at some of these practices? I suppose if they're pretty large, you can just ask around, but because it would, to me, that would be like that'd be evidence of it. That's what I was talking about as I was introducing you, is that I've known many groups here where I am with one or two doctors to hire, and they're just turning through them every 2 years, because what they do is they treat them like residents. They never really talk seriously about partnership. And so, I mean, I figured they're always going to be a failure, but there's this other group that is very stable. So is it possible to kind of get that information and to kind of key some of your decisions on that?
Yeah, that's huge. I think the biggest way of knowing if a practice will treat you well is how many doctors have come and gone. A lot of the practices that I work with are just single physician practices who are ready to expand. So
Mm,
I'm not going to get a good sense of if the physicians have come and gone, but I do get a sense of how they talk about their practice, how they talk about what they're looking for, how they talk about the kind of person that they would be to work with, and the rest of their staff turnover. So one of the practices
mm-hmm.
I'm working with now, it's a single physician. She's had her practice for 12 years, and she's looking for a true partner. I mean, she's looking for someone who will bring ideas and who will not just be a partner financially and business side, but really come up with their own ideas and be a part of running the practice. And her employees have been there 6 years or longer. So
Oh,
more than
nice.
likely
Hmm.
she's going to
Yeah.
treat her
Yeah,
physician well if she treats her the rest of the office staff well.
absolutely. Well, let's see. We've seen in general over the last decade or two or longer a migration to more employment with large corporations, hospitals, health systems, and so forth. Which brings me to the next question. The reason for that is it seems like they have more money sloshing around, and they can buy your practice or they can recruit you. Even if things don't work out and they end up firing you in 2 years, they have, you kind of tied in. So what kind of things do you tell your clients, the patients about, or not the patients, rather the physicians about, in terms of what to expect when they're looking for a job like this? And are they going to have to take that into consideration, that they might benefit on this side, but maybe the monetary will be later? How does that work?
Yeah, and before I even go into that, I'll say that different physicians are at a different point of being able to hear that, like truly hear that, or be open to that. And some, that conversation isn't really important to them. Um, so, when it comes to hospital versus private practice, I would say probably the biggest one is that affects people is salary. We forget that we're still in a business. We still have the practices that we're working for still have to make money. The smaller practices are putting a lot of money into you. Some of them, the physician owners actually don't take a salary while they pay you your salary, versus the
Mm,
hospitals who are getting money from the imaging and the labs and the referrals and all the things that they do. And some of them are hiring people who will order more of those tests and make more money, and that's where your salary is coming from. So they are happy to lose money on the clinic visits themselves because they know they're going to make it up in all these other ways. So I do hear from physicians, I just want to be paid fairly, without a true understanding of what that actually
mm,
means.
mm-hmm.
So one of the downsides of private practice is that it's a smaller system, and this could be a benefit or a pro or a con being a smaller, but one of the cons is that it doesn't have those large systems set up to be able to provide these giant salaries and amazing, health insurance benefits and part-time off,
Mm-hmm.
paid time off. But, with that, that's what we call the golden handcuffs. So you go work
Yeah.
for these systems and you get used to be paying whatever salary it is that you're used to, and then you feel like you can't leave no matter how they treat you. So, So that's, one of the most important things that I see. I see doctors who go work for hospitals and maybe have an idea going into it that they're not going to be so happy, or it's wonderful, but then administration changes and it's time for them to get out of it because they're just miserable. So the biggest thing is to really prepare for those circumstances. So that means not signing a non-compete where you wouldn't be able to work in the city you live in if you were to leave them. If there is a non-compete, there has to be a way to get out of it. So if they fire you, maybe the non-compete is void. Or you can have what's called a sunrise or a sunset clause on your non-compete where it's not valid after a certain number of years working there. There needs to be some sort of wiggle room so that when you sign that contract with the hospital, you have a way of leaving them because they know that they've got us. They have us. We are not leaving because they're giving us the salary, they're giving us the time off and the health insurance and all these things that are amazing. And if we leave, we have to leave town. So they don't
Right.
care about us. If they actually cared about their physicians as human beings and medicine in general and patients, they wouldn't be doing these things. They'd be retaining us by treating us well rather than retaining us by not giving us a choice otherwise.
No, that's absolutely true. And it's the reason you need to have a good attorney look at these contracts, I think, because there's usually some wiggle room and but if you don't even ask, you're not going to get the concessions. So it's a really good point. Um, the other thing that I've seen in the past when I was working as CMO is, we would try to put the onus for the malpractice sometimes, or at least part of it, on the physician. Like if they left after a year or two, they were going to be subject to tail coverage or something like that, which, I've come to believe that's just ridiculous because it's a cost of doing business. If they won't do that, you shouldn't even consider, working with an institution like that, because it's the worst of the handcuffs and it's not fair. So given that, though, you might have to go with a private and a partner and what have you. And, so the income at first might not be, as high as what's published by hospitals, but long-term, you're going to be a lot happier and have a lot more satisfaction. Let me pause here, by the way. Give us your email, or not your email, but your website address right now, so I don't forget. Some people don't listen all the way to the end. So we're going to find Happy Day Health where?
It's happydayhealth.co. And you can
Nice.
find me on LinkedIn as well. It's Lara Hochman, MD.
Okay, so we'll put that in the show notes and we'll talk about that again at the end here. Um, have you gotten any feedback from people that you've placed with these practices? Have you heard back from how things are going 3, 6 months in?
Yeah, they're doing great. They're so happy. Some of them, one guy said I saved his life, which is,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
there's no words for that. They they're just happy and they're like, I didn't realize, I had no idea what I was missing, or thank you for opening my eyes up to, I had a DPC recently, thank you for opening my eyes to DPC, or
Oh, really?
even a
Okay.
physician who I didn't place had said, thank you so much, you've changed the way I practice, you've changed the way I look for practices. So it's a lot of fun, it's very rewarding, and doctors are just happier. These are, some of these were physicians who were considering leaving medicine entirely, and they're really enjoying it.
So, any general advice now, because, someone who's been in practice and has been burned out, they know they're looking for something different. But let's say you're coming out of residency and you really don't know. And again, you're going to be pulled into that funnel. You're going to see all these ads. Other advice or just things that they should think about a little bit before necessarily ruling out one of these potentially lower paying, but more, life affirming positions.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have so many things to say. When it comes to salary, the few things to know are look at the starting salary and the potential earning, because
Mhm.
it can actually potentially be much higher in private practice. You just have to be able to delay gratification a little bit longer. Also, especially for the new grads, I see very frequently where doctors want to interview at so many different places. And then in the process, they may actually lose the perfect job where they know it's the one they want, but there's that, we're not used to making decisions. And so we over analyze it and take too much time and then can lose that. So I would say, if you find a practice that you feel will treat you well and pay you a salary that you're happy with, um, do it. Don't wait. You don't want to lose out on something awesome because you are just
Right.
kind of all over the place. And I understand, like, if you've never worked in a practice before as an attending, then how do you know what you're looking for? But you know, so long as you protect yourself, like we spoke about with the non-compete and all of those things, then you're good. But yeah, you just have to, I would say, pick the practice that will treat you the best, because life is a journey. We're not racing to retirement. You want to enjoy every day.
Maybe if you're a resident or fellow and you're coming out and you've been in an academic situation or something, maybe you need to spend a little bit of time just talking to a couple of people who are in private practice, as opposed to maybe everyone who's surrounded and they're in an academic practice or they're in a large hospital practice. Maybe talk to a few of those people that have been by themselves or in a small group or even a large group that's run by doctors, and maybe that'll give them a little insight and trying to make those decisions. Because I think you're right. We it's easy to fall into that, thing of just going with the higher salary and, the upfront benefits, but later on you might regret it.
Yeah.
All right. So again, the website is happydayhealth.co, and they can reach you, Dr. Lara Hochman, on LinkedIn. And I think this is really exciting. I hope you all the success. You need to keep us posted on, if I don't know, maybe if you like, even if you want to do a little recruiting here, let me know. I'll put the word out if you're really having a hard time finding somebody, because I'm sure some of my listeners are like, yeah, a nice practice is just as good a way to solve burnout as, becoming an MSL or something. So anyway, it's been my pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun and something unique. Obviously, it's not a non-clinical career, but after all, I'm here to help you overcome burnout and find a practice that you can stay in for a long time and enjoy yourself, enjoy your patients, and not feel burnt out or overwhelmed. So you can find the show notes for today's episode at nonclinicalphysicians.com/medical matchmaker, and you'll find all the links there, and also to some associated episodes that are similar to today's content. Before we go, let me remind you that we invite you to join NewScript at nonclinicalphysicians.com/NewScript, NEWSCRIPT. It's a community of clinicians writing a new script for their careers and lives, and is still accepting new members. And the easiest way to check it out is go to that link at nonclinicalphysicians.com/NewScript. We have nurses, physicians, podiatrists, therapists, dentists, all kinds of licensed healthcare practitioners. And it's really a great place to meet other people, find a mentor, ask questions, provide answers. And we've got a lot of free content in there once you pay the membership, such as videos and live streams and things of that sort. So the monthly fee is locked in for life, rather. And the subscription will go up as we grow, and we actually plan to increase it very soon. But for now, you can join for $5, less than $5 per month. So go to newscript.app or nonclinicalphysicians.com/newscript. Remember, too, this podcast is made possible by the support of the University of Tennessee Physician Executive MBA program. Learn more about that at nonclinicalphysicians.com/physician MBA. And remember that links that I refer you to and you'll find the show notes are often affiliate links. That means that I receive a payment from the seller if you purchase the affiliate item using my link. And finally, the opinions expressed here are mine, and the information provided in the podcast is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge. Actually, today's episode is me and my guest. There's no guarantee that using the methods discussed will lead to success in your career, life, or business, so always consult an attorney, accountant, or career counselor or strategist before making any major decision about your career. All right, I hope to see you again right here next Tuesday morning on the next episode of Physician Non-Clinical Careers Podcast.